guys, welcome back to the Funny Thing Is podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Birch, where every week I bring you a guest who shares a life-changing event, the medicine they took to get better, and the funniest lesson they learned along the way. Today, I have a very special guest for you. Not only is she a writer and podcaster in Los Angeles, her book, Good to Go, A Fresh Take on Potty Training for Today's Intentional Parent, was released in October of 2025, and she is the co-host of a very popular podcast called Big Fat Positive. Welcome to the podcast, Laura Berk.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay,
Yeah.
so I usually tell people how we met. And so this is you and I meeting for the first time.
Is, yeah.
I did a gig in Beverly Hills for a Grown Z, which is like they make a bunch of baby products. And so I did an event and I met your good friend, Gia.
Mm-hmm. My
Gia,
co-author.
Yeah, Gia Gambaro Blunt, right?
Correct, yeah.
And she told me all about you. And she sang your praises about not only the podcast and what it is, but like kind of your journey. And so you luckily said that you do the podcast, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
What is a life-changing event you would like to share?
Considering that I host a pregnancy and parenting podcast, this is probably not going to be a shocker, but my life-changing event was when I got pregnant with my first child at 35.
Okay.
And it's kind of embarrassing in retrospect because I had really bought into this whole narrative about how like once you get pregnant, your life ends, right? Like once you have a kid, everything changes. The world is over.
Same.
I was 35. I'd been living a dink lifestyle, dual income, no kids for years with my husband. We had been like traveling and we went out to restaurants like on a whim, 5 nights a week, like just stupid crap like that. Like now you're like, oh, I could never do that. But, we loved our life. We were very happy. And we really waffled about whether we wanted to have kids for a while because it was hard to like think about giving up that lifestyle and for what it would do to our career, right? So
what was your guys' career before?
So my husband's a TV writer.
Amazing.
And as we know, men don't have to worry as much
at all
about it. No one's like, ooh, your career's over, man. No one, not a single person said that to him.
No,
it's so interesting.
It's so weird how they don't get that.
Weird. He did actually have to go back to his writer's room like when my first child was 2 weeks old, though. That really sucked.
Girl.
Yeah, that really sucked. But that's skipping ahead. So he is a TV writer. His shit was fine. It was me. So I went to grad school for professional writing, for screenwriting, and I always wanted to be a writer of some sort, right? I was always writing. Like when I was growing up, I was writing poetry and then stage plays and then screenplays. And so when I got to 35...
That's so weird, by the way. That was exactly my journey.
That was your
poetry
trajectory?
And then screenplays. And then that's when I came out to LA to be a writer. That's so funny.
Yeah. And my friend Shauna and I had gone to grad school together. And a couple years prior to us getting... Or that's a spoiler, to me getting pregnant... we started writing together. We started writing for TV together because we decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. We both love TV. We work really well together. Let's write for TV. So we'd written like 2 pilots and then we were just about to start sending them out. Like we were, I was going to use my husband's connections very shamelessly to like try to.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, to try to get to know some showrunners, try to get showrunner meetings, basically. That was our goal. And then Shauna, who already had a 2-year-old and had been trying for a very long time through different fertility treatments and finally IVF, she gets pregnant. Very exciting. Super exciting. We're so happy for her. 3 weeks later, I get pregnant.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And we're like looking at each other. I remember we met up to work on our pilots one day and we're both like morning sickness sick. And we're just like, what do we do? Like, what do we do now? No one's going to hire 2 pregos. You know what I mean? Like no one's going to, can you imagine?
This is only thoughts we have too. Like men don't have, But imagine walking into a writer's room. You're like, we've got a great idea for you. And you're crowning,
Yeah, exactly. So we're like, we might have to pivot a little. And so I was kind of panicked because I was 35, as I said, almost 36. And I was like, I thought I would have more under my like writing career by then. I had a day job. I'm a web developer, which is like a whole
that's
other
great.
thing.
Okay, that's a good.
It's a very lucrative day job.
My side hustle was a bartender, so you're already killing it. Okay, you're doing great.
Yeah, this was my like all my friends in grad school were like waiting tables or bartending, and I was building websites. And
amazing.
It just happened that way. But that was a whole other. That wasn't my passion. My passion was creating. Right.
Right.
And I was like, I can't, like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to suck all my creativity. I'm going to have no time, yada, yada. So that was really like the low point. I thought that basically my career was over.
Right.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So then what is the medicine?
Yeah. So I didn't realize it at the time
Of
because it took a long time for me to realize that this is what was happening. But what really helped me and my medicine was that I leaned into motherhood as like the portal to creativity.
Oh, I
Sorry.
love that. I
Yeah.
love you saying that.
Yeah, the portal to creativity. It's very hard to say.
Yeah.
Rather than like a barrier to it, right?
Right.
And I didn't know what was happening. But what it all started with was I was like, I want to say 7 weeks pregnant. Nobody knew except for Corey and Shauna. And of
Mhm.
course I told Shauna right away. 'Cause she's like my best friend and I already knew she was pregnant. And so I needed to tell her, right? Like
Right.
we're gonna have babies at the same time. It was so exciting. And I like had terrible morning sickness. And I was just like trying to do anything I could to calm it down. And so I like decided to go outside, get some fresh air. I was in the little front yard of my Pasadena house.
Yeah.
And I was pulling weeds while listening to a podcast and just kind of mind racing about all the things that are going to change in my life. And all of a sudden an idea just came to me. And it was like, oh my gosh, we should do a podcast about this.
Right.
And you know when you get an idea that's like really good and you just know it's
You
good?
feel it
You feel
everywhere.
it. It's
You
like
feel it
being in
everywhere.
love, right? It's like
Mhm.
you just know in your
Yes.
body that it's the right idea.
Yes.
That's how I felt about this one. I was like, oh, a podcast. It's like Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic thing.
Yes. I have read it. Yeah.
I'm very like low on the woo-woo spectrum, but that's one of the things that I like hold on to. I was like, the idea was gifted to me from the
Right.
universe. And I felt a need to protect it and like usher it into the
Yeah.
world.
And also you were kind of spiraling. So like
Oh, yes.
whenever I spiral and something ignites, I'm like, oh, this is juicy. This
Yeah.
is something I'm supposed to
Yeah,
follow.
exactly. And so I pull out my phone and I text Shauna, and I still have like a screenshot of the text
Oh,
where I'm just like, hey, I have an idea. Like, what if we do a podcast where we follow our pregnancies week by week and just talk about it? And I was so nervous to send it to her because here she is. She already has a 2-year-old.
right.
She has a full-time job. She's pregnant, pregnant after losses too. So I know she's stressed.
Right.
And I thought she was going to be like, no, it's too much. You know what I mean? Like, it's too much to add to my plate. But she wrote back and instantly was like, oh my God, yes.
Oh my God.
And I was like, thank goodness. So we started texting. And honestly, those early texts are very much like still what the podcast is. We were like, we can do segments with check-ins and funny segments. And we figured it out really quickly.
Right.
And then jumped on it and recorded it. Like the next week we got in and started
Holy
recording.
cow. That was fast. Yeah.
And we've been doing it every week since. It's been like 7.5 years, I think, episode 391.
And you haven't missed a week.
We have never missed a week.
Crazy.
Where is Wood? I need to knock
I
on
know.
some
I know.
wood.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But what I didn't realize, so like now I can't imagine my life without the podcast, right? Like the podcast is part of my identity, and I'm now like
you
a
guys
veteran.
have like 4 million downloads. I mean, it's a very successful podcast.
Yeah, we've done pretty well. I mean, what's interesting is we have like such a tight community. Like we're not like top of the charts. We're not big. We're not flashy, but our community is so tight.
That's better.
Like it's just amazing. We absolutely love the people that find our podcast because we think the people that find us are people who, we made the podcast for people like us. Like I wanted a pregnancy podcast that wasn't like all informative, right? Like I love an informative podcast.
Same.
Right? Like I love a podcast that's going to teach me like what hyperemesis gravidarium is, right? Like that's very interesting, but it's not
terrifying also. Oh my God.
Very terrifying. I have many friends who had it. It's just awful. But then the other side was like, moms who drink, right? Like it's like wine moms who are complaining about everything. And we're like, we're not there either. Right? We're somewhere in the middle. Like we like some info. We like comedy. We're both, we've both done a bunch of storytelling and stand-up and stuff. And we wanted to find some show that was what we would want to listen to.
Right.
Just like two best friends chatting about like the highs and lows, like nothing, we're not coming from it from a 100% cynical standpoint. We're not trying to
Right.
like bash it, but we're also not shying away from the real stuff, right?
I have a question for you that I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So I was a stand-up and writer before,
Yeah.
and then I got pregnant, and then I was doing stand-up, and I was like, oh, I can do stand-up my whole pregnancy, no problem. And then I was at the Comedy Store, and it was like 6 months pregnant, and I had my dad's daughter who's in the audience, and he's seen me perform a million times. And the audience couldn't tell, but I could tell like the mom brain was hitting. And so I was like losing pace a little bit, and he could tell. I don't think the audience could tell, but it was enough for me to be like, oh, I have to not do this for the next 3 because it's going to just get worse. And I'd noticed it happening the previous few sets. And so I was wondering, did mom brain affect either of you for the podcasting at some point, or did you feel like not as sharp or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh no,
please tell me.
My brain is still not back. Like I've had 2 kids and now I'm just like, where did it go?
And they keep saying it's going to come back. And I'm like, where? When?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, so there is a great book. It's called Mom Genes, Genes, not these kind of genes, but
that's actually a comedy special name too.
It is. Yeah. Abigail something is her, I can't remember her last name, but it's all about the physiological changes that happen in your brain and body when you get pregnant and have a baby.
Right.
Fascinating.
Oh, I mean, I know like it's like that part of your brain shuts down so that you can protect. And I'm like, okay, but she's fine now. Can I get it back?
Here's how fucked up the mom's brain is. Okay.
Please.
Researchers were able to train an AI to look at MRIs, and it could tell just by the MRIs, not knowing anything about the patient, which patients have had kids or not. Because, and I'm not talking about recently postpartum. I'm talking about forever. Your brain is forever changed, and it's good. It's a good thing because it's all about taking care of your kid and pivoting and doing all these things that you weren't able to do before.
Right.
But like we were talking about, like it's framed so often as this like death of the previous you, which in a way it is.
It is like
it's a metamorphosis, whatever.
Right.
Like, but we're so afraid of losing that old us that we don't see that there are benefits to this new mom brain,
and all the other little things that we get along with it.
I mean, I'm sure you can multitask like no one's business.
Amazing.
Now.
Yeah. I know where everything is. I can't find my car keys, but I know where she put every toy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That she needs. Yeah.
Yeah, you have an index. That's the mom brain, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, the nice thing about the podcast too is we edit it.
Yeah.
So there are times where Shauna and I will just like wander off in our brains. We're like, what the hell were we talking about? Well, we'll cut that out. Let's start this again, you know?
Great. That's great.
The podcast medium is very good.
Yeah.
For that mom brain. Yeah.
So you guys did this. So 2018. And then, so I have a question. Since you guys got pregnant 3 weeks apart, did you guys give birth 3 weeks apart?
Yeah.
Okay.
It may have been, it's about 3 weeks. She had a planned C-section because it was her second. Right. And I had a planned C-section because my baby was like head up the whole time. He never wanted to be, he was super breech, never wanted to go down. So we both ended up having C-sections like right at 39 weeks. So yeah, it ended up being, just a few weeks apart. Different years because hers is a December baby and mine is a January baby.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are they close?
They are buddies. But what's really interesting is that her first daughter, who we call Elle on the show, and my older son, we call him Augie on the show. We use pseudonyms. Augie and Elle are like this. They're
friends.
Like best buds. And it's so interesting. They're 3 years apart, but they are like inseparable. And we always thought that Cece, who is her younger daughter, was going to be like best buds with Augie because they're 3 weeks apart. But it's just a personality mix thing.
I love that.
And yeah, I mean, we just went over recently for Cece's birthday party and Augie and Elle just like ran off to like Elle's bedroom and we're like talking and playing and stuff. And at some point, people were like, oh, where's Augie and Elle? And we were like, oh, they're doing big kid things. And we're like, wait a second. Augie's not the big kid. Like, so it's just interesting how that worked out. Funny. But yeah, we're all, I mean, they call each other cousins. Like our kids call each other cousins because we don't have like any biological cousins. Yeah.
Do you, so you did that. So then you were doing it every week. So I assume you stacked them before the deliveries?
We did. We release our episodes excuse me, microphone. We release our episodes 4 weeks on a 4-week delay. So what we talk about happened a month ago.
Got it.
So we can bank them. So we got to take a little bit of a break. I mean, I took like 3 weeks. We both took like 3 weeks before we started recording again. And then we caught back up.
Great.
But yeah, that's about it.
And then what did it morph into? Because originally the idea was to talk about your pregnancies week by week basis, but now we're on 7 years. So how did you feel like it morphing after you had the babies?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, we realized after we had the babies, there's no reason to stop because newborn life is a week by week situation.
Every stage. That's what I was going to say, like every stage. And you kind of have an evergreen podcast where it's like so relatable. Yeah. And people are still having babies consistently. So it's like people can just tap in now. Or I'd want to tap in as a mom of a 7-year-old. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was our hope, right? And our original plan was like, oh, you start listening at whatever week you're at in your pregnancy or whatever age your kid is at, right? And we thought that made sense, right? So you can listen. And some people do that. Some people are like, I listen week by week to line up with what my kid's going through. It makes me feel like less alone, blah, blah, blah. Most people are like, yeah, I tried to do that. And then I listened to all 300 episodes and now I'm caught up and I don't know what to do.
That's going to be me. That's going to be me. I'm 9 weeks pregnant. Surprise to the audience. Yay. Which by the time it comes out, I will have announced it. But that's something that I'm going to jump in on this. But also I have a 6-year-old. So I'm going to go through all of it. I'm going to go through your whole catalog pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Keep going back to the medicine.
Yes.
So was it the same for your partner, for Shauna also, that like she felt, oh, this opened something up for her?
Yeah, I think so. She's continued to have a full-time job basically this whole time. Right. The pandemic really threw a wrench in everything. In a weird way, the pandemic was great for the podcast because everyone was suddenly home and looking for podcasts and listening to podcasts, and everyone was isolated. And for some stupid reason, I decided to get pregnant during the pandemic with my second baby, like very intentionally.
Yes.
Yes. Wild idea. Yeah. Like, oh, you know what would be good to add to this pandemic with a toddler? Like, just get pregnant. Yeah. But I did it. And then we started tracking that. And that was really, we heard from a lot of listeners that was really helpful because all these first-time moms were completely alone during the pandemic. They didn't have partners going into ultrasounds. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't share anything with anybody.
One of my girlfriend delivered, a few of my girlfriends delivered during the pandemic. And my daughter was 6 months old when the pandemic hit. So for me, the pandemic, obviously terrible situation. But for me, it was the time, like I'd saved up 6 months of income so that I could have a 6-month maternity. Yeah. And then right when I was about to have to go to work, the pandemic hit. And so then we just stayed on my mom's 5 acres for 5 months. And it was like, I got all that first year with her and it was so juicy. Yeah. But then my other girlfriends who were like going through, 3-4 months pregnant all the way to delivery. And then they had to deliver with masks on. Yeah. And nobody could, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I was also a single mom. But I had like 10 people show up in my hospital room. Wow. Within the next like 72 hours because I had to stay for a while.
Well, you needed help.
And I needed help. But then at the same time, they couldn't have any visitors. And you're like, oh, so I'm glad you got to tap into that and what that experience was like.
And so we were able to create this sort of, virtual community of other pregnant people who needed someone to relate to them. Yeah. And so with Shauna too, I think, we were both pretty strict with isolation during the podcast or during the pandemic. I did not see Shauna once in person the whole time I was pregnant with my second child. And we still recorded the podcast every week.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so I think for her, it really gave her this community too. It gave her an outlet. And we both just feel great. Like we both are just thankfully completely on the same page. Like no matter what happens, we want to keep the podcast going. Like the podcast is our thing. We're not using the podcast to like sell a course or do this or that. Right. Like the podcast is the thing we're passionate about. Yeah. And we're both really aligned on that. So that's really made it excellent. And we really want to make it excellent. You know what I mean? We want to provide our listeners with like the best listening opportunity, like with just something that makes them feel seen and heard because we know your time is precious, especially as a parent, especially as a pregnant person or a parent with like a tiny baby. Like choosing to spend your time with us is such a privilege that we want to make it good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And you guys can tell that you pour your heart into it. You know what I mean? I do have, I'm going to kind of go out of order. So we'll go with what the funniest lesson is that you learned. But then I have questions from my people that I've asked because they knew you
Okay.
were coming on.
Okay, great.
So let's do what would you say the funniest lesson you've learned through all of it?
So we didn't even get to this because I'm just a talker. Obviously, I have
That's okay.
I've done like almost 400 episodes of a podcast. I know how to talk. But the other thing that happened with being a mom is that I ended up getting more writing opportunities that I didn't even know were available. So, like for example, my friend who was my roommate at arts camp in high school. When she grew up, she became an editor at O Magazine. And then right when I had my first baby, she switched over to Parents Magazine. So she sends me a message. She's like, hey, I've got some assignments for parents. You're a parent now. Let's do it. And I was
Isn't that wild?
Cool. Yeah. And I was just like, things I could never do.
Yeah.
Like I was never going to be a contributor to Parents Magazine without being a parent.
Right.
But it never occurred to me that there's this whole world that I unlocked,
Right.
And with those bylines that really helped me get a little bit more credibility, and it allowed me to, be a real writer when it came time to pitch our potty training book, which is Good to Go, a fresh take on potty training for today's intentional parent. You mentioned it in the intro, that I co-wrote with my former mommy and me teacher, toddler and me teacher, Gia Gambaro Blunt. So I met Gia in toddler classes.
Who's what they call the toddler whisperer.
I mean, she's incredible.
The speech she gave, I can't wait to have her on as well, because the information she gave to parents in the audience they're all rocking their newborns. Yeah. And was vital. And I'm a mom of a 6-year-old, and I'm like, man, I wish I would have known that. I joke that I decided to write a book with Gia just so I could have her on speed dial. And I could use her as my private parenting consult, Right. And it's so true. We would get on our weekly meeting for the book, and I'd be like, okay, we're gonna talk about the book, but I need you to help me with Augie for a second. And I would just get a 20-minute free consult. Thanks, Gia. Right. Yeah. So she's great. Gia is incredible. 20-year veteran of parenting, teaching. She's incredible. And I'm the funny writer girl, right? But we joined forces because we both hated all the other potty training books that were out there. I've got so many questions. Okay, great. Yeah. I won't get too into it. But the funniest thing, the funniest lesson, I was trying to think. I mean, I've learned lots of lessons, and most of them are not very funny. Most of them are pretty humbling. But one thing that I find really hilarious is that when I tell people I wrote a potty training book and they know I'm a mom, they're like, oh, did you do the pictures too? Almost all. And I'm like, oh, well, I did actually. There are a few illustrations I did in there, but no, it's 220 pages long. And they're like, their mind is calculating. They're like, oh, it's not for children. Oh, it's not for children. No, it's not animated. Okay, got it. Yeah, it's a potty training book for adults to read to help potty train their children. Yeah, when I read that, I wrote it down. I was like, 220 pages is hilarious. Yeah. Okay, so I've got some questions. Let's see. What I loved is when I was reading Good to Go, which I highly recommend for any parent that is in the depths of potty training. I was very lucky with my daughter, but then I realized I thought I had done the 3-day. Yeah. And I actually think I did more of your approach. I just didn't know because I was leading her up to it. Yeah. So gradually that I was like, oh yeah, this didn't take 3 days. This was me prepping her and making sure she was ready and all of those cues and modeling and stuff like that. What would you say is the Good to Go method? So Good to Go, our pitch is basically that we teach 90% of the potty training before removing diapers. And the way we do it is what you intuited is that we do something we call the rehearsal period. You'll appreciate this because I have a theater background, and when we were writing this book, we were trying to figure out how to frame everything. And we talked about these other methods that just overnight they a child goes to bed, wakes up, and then the parents are like, guess what? No diapers anymore. You get to use the potty today. Yeah. And I was like, oh, Gia, this is the actor's nightmare. And she had no idea what I was talking about because she doesn't have a theater background. And I was like, the actor's nightmare, where every actor has had this at some point in their life where you're having a bad dream and someone shoves you on stage and you don't know the lines, you don't even know what play you're in, and they're like, go, go, go. And I was like, that is what's happening to these poor little toddlers who are being told just at one day out of the blue that they aren't using diapers anymore and they have to use the potty. Well, I loved your story with Augie. Yeah. Because you said, you went to her and the first question she asked was, did you even tell him this was going to be happening?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh my God. And I've had so many mom moments where I'm like, I think of everything.
Yeah.
I think of everything. And then it's that one thing. And you're like, I can't believe I didn't even tell her or him that
Yeah.
this was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think sometimes maybe you can relate to this. As a parent, I'm sure as you were a single parent,
Right.
wait. It's kind of hard to remember that your kid is a separate human being sometimes.
Yes.
Like they feel like part of your thing. And
Yeah.
so sometimes you just think they must know what you know.
Exactly. Absolutely. They're just
Yeah.
like an extension of you.
Yeah. I start
Yeah.
the books by saying I'm a failure at potty
It's
training.
my favorite line. Yeah.
Because I was with my first son. I used one of these 3-day methods and it just was kind of a disaster. And we ended up going back to diapers when my second was born. But it's this thing, this actor's nightmare where the kids don't know what's going on. So our book is different. Our book, we do 2 to 4 weeks of what we call the rehearsal period,
Mhm.
where you're practicing all the skills of potty training so that when the day comes to remove diapers, there's only one thing they need to focus on, which is noticing their sensation cues, right? So everything else is old hat, right?
Right.
They're not scared because if you think about going to the bathroom as an adult, you think like an adult says, I have to go to the bathroom, one step. As a kid, it's like 9 steps. You have to notice the sensation, then you have to go to the little potty or to the bathroom, then you have to pull your pants down, then you have to get your butt on the seat, then you have to actually go.
So
Then you have
many
like
steps.
there's so many steps. And if we're just throwing this at kids, they have like 9 steps to learn at
Right.
once. So what we do in Good to Go is we learn like steps 2 through 8. We just hold on the sensation cue stuff. We just do 2 through 8. So you're practicing all the mechanics of it so that when it comes time to take away diapers, that's all easy peasy and they're just focused on their
Right.
internal sensation cues, which is not like they have to learn it for themselves and it's
Right.
hard. So
Yeah.
that's the Good to Go.
I love that. And it's also
method.
like teaching them body autonomy and like knowing their
Yes.
sensations and stuff.
Yeah, we center body autonomy in our method for sure.
So here's some questions from the viewers.
Okay, great.
Are boys generally more difficult to potty train?
Anecdotally, yes, but there's absolutely no evidence
right? I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, there's no evidence that it actually makes a difference.
Right.
But people will say there is, and so just because there's no evidence doesn't mean it's not true.
Right.
I think it's just like some kids
Right.
are harder and some kids are
Or
easier.
not. Yeah.
I will say one thing that's easier for boys is you do have the standing up option, which you don't have for girls,
Right.
which while it's tricky to choose, like, are you going to do standing or sitting in the toilet? It does make like out and about easier if you're at a park. I mean, like, try to find a bathroom, but like,
Right.
look, you have a 2-year-old who's potty training and they suddenly have to go. If they have a penis, makes life a little easier.
Pretty easy. Pretty
So,
easy compared. I used
yeah.
to travel with my daughter. I mean, I would never post this photo of her, but we did find my mom's in town and we found a photo of her potty training me. And so it's like an
Oh my
old vintage.
gosh.
I'm going to share it with you, but we're in my grandmother's living room. I'm
Yeah.
in a plastic potty and you can see the frustration on my mom's face
Oh,
and you just see
man.
me crying.
Oh.
And I'm like, I wonder what that would have been like. But then also in your book, what I really appreciated were
Mhm.
some stats where you were like, the average age of potty training in the US in 1950 was 12 months.
Mhm.
Then disposable diapers came to the scene. And then that just increased it to 18 months. And now it's 30 months.
Yes.
That's so wild to me because
Yeah.
I did some work in Honduras
Mhm.
and with Save the Children. And when I was there, I was like, oh yeah, obviously there's no diapers.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, how are these kids being potty trained? And by the time they're like just 18 months, at least
Mhm.
past walking, they know where to go.
Yeah.
It was so interesting
Yeah.
to me.
It's definitely culturally dependent on whether you have easy access to diapers. But the thing that people misinterpret with that, I've seen all these reels,
Please.
like these hot take reels being like, kids can be potty trained early or we're coddling them. It's like, not really. These are all the same kids with the same brain development. There's nothing that fundamentally has changed from 1950 to now other than the like existence of relatively cheap, and I mean anyone who's had to buy diapers know they're relatively cheap disposable diapers. But what the difference is we talk about how potty training is kind of a spectrum of parental involvement, that at the beginning you're going to be in the highly involved
Right.
phase, right? And then you move to occasionally involved to rarely involved. When you potty train, in quotes, a 12-month-old, you're just extending your highly involved phase.
Right.
Okay, so like, yes, the pee and the poop is getting in the potty, but it still requires a lot of parental attention and involvement
Of course.
for longer. So
Right.
it's not impossible, but also we live in a world where parents and especially mothers who are often the people who are responsible for the potty training for the most part
Right.
are not able to sit and just watch their children's facial expressions and wait for them to show a cue.
Yeah, because
You
there's the
know?
comedian Catherine Ryan, and she talks about a lot about how she potty trains them almost at birth.
Mhm.
And she goes, because you can tell by their faces, eventually you can
Yeah.
tell, and you can do that. And so, like, her last 2 kids were potty trained almost immediately, and there's been she gets a lot of flack for it,
Yeah.
but she also understands that she's gifted with time
Yes.
and ability to do that,
Yeah.
and that if it's a 6-month-old baby, you're still holding the baby. It's not like
Yeah.
they're walking there.
I mean, the joke we make when we give presentations, G and I, is that like, so elimination communication is the name of
That's
that
it.
version.
Yes, thank you.
And if it works for you, we're all for it. Like, do what works best for your family, but just know that you are kind of the one that's potty trained, not them.
Right.
Right? They, just because pee and poop is getting in the potty doesn't mean that they are able to recognize their own internal cues and have, we were talking about body awareness as being the center of the good to go method.
Right.
Their body awareness is not the center
No.
of the elimination communication, which is, again, fine if that works for your family. But it also goes back to this thing that I love talking about this, and most people don't probably. But I love this idea of like, what is potty trained? Like, we are fed this myth that potty training is a binary. There's a before and an after. There's a
Right.
line in the sand that you
Right.
cross, right? And like, it's before potty training and after. And I would like to argue that it's not that. It's more of a gradation. It's more of a process, just like everything, just like with walking with kids. Like, your kid takes his first steps. Are they walking? They can take one step and fall. Are they walking? No. Like, it's a process, but no one's nitpicking that.
Right.
That learning to walk is a process. It's the same with potty training. Just because you take away the diapers, that's one step.
It doesn't
of
mean
it.
it's done.
Well,
Right.
and it doesn't mean that you have to be ashamed that it's not done either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you recognize that you are moving through this process, sometimes you move back a step, sometimes you move
Mhm.
forward, then you don't have to be so beholden to this idea that like, oh, I didn't potty train right, or I need to potty train better, or my kid's not potty trained enough. It's like, just go through it. Like, keep working towards the goal. The end goal is that you're going to have a day in the future where you don't know the last time your kid went to the bathroom.
Right.
That's a long way
Right.
away,
That's a long way
right?
away.
We are moving towards that.
Yeah.
And you can move, some people move through it faster, some slower, but
Yeah. It's so funny. I just realized the other day that actually yesterday in the airport, when I was with my daughter, I was like, oh, because you talk about modeling, and she still stands to wipe a number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why does she still stand to do that? And I'm like, oh, because she's never seen me do that.
Yeah.
And because she's still in that phase where I have, she thinks I still have to help her
Oh, yeah.
do that, which I
Yeah.
don't anymore, but she still stands for that. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the modeling thing you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. And like, if you're still helping your 6-year-old wipe their butt, are we going to say they're not potty trained?
Yeah,
Like, no, of course
exactly.
not.
Yeah.
But the truth is that kids need help wiping for way
Longer than it's talked about.
Yeah, way longer. So like, I just think we need to get rid of this idea of it being a light switch, of it being what binary.
The 3-day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. Let me see. I think that's yep. Oh, it's so funny because my daughter was one where when she, the diapers that turn a stripe when you pee when you're peeing, right?
Yeah.
You could see it turning blue, and she would be screaming. Like, she needed her diaper off immediately. And I want you to know, moms out there, she's still got a UTI. So how that happened, it was insane. At 4 months, we had to take her to the ER because we didn't know what it was, but it was a UTI. And I'm like, I don't remember what the average diaper was a day, but ours was 22. Like, we went through 22 because she could not be wet for a second. So I think that's also kind of, and that's her. That's not crediting me at all. That's just her cues or whatever.
That is her comfort with her own body being, wet or whatever. That's another thing that's on a spectrum. And it's so interesting because some kids DGAF. Like,
Yeah.
they will sit in a poopy diaper
Oh, my
forever.
nephews. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you'll have, like, your daughter who's like, a drop of pee. It's
Get
like,
it
get it
off.
off of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why there's no one-size-fits-all
Absolutely.
approach, because there's no one kid.
Yeah,
You're
and that
gonna
doesn't reflect on the parent. That's, that's just
Yeah.
like who they are individually. Could you explain upskilling?
Yes, I'm happy to explain upskilling. So upskilling, Gia could get more into this because she's the academic in this respect, but it's based on Vygotsky, who is like this big thinker in education. He has a concept in education called scaffolding, which is like the idea that in education, the student is a building and you put scaffolds around to help them, and then you slowly remove the scaffolds. Doesn't really
love
work.
that.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Love
great, especially when it comes to education. But when it comes to parenting, it's not quite as applicable. So the way that Gia imagined it was more of a staircase. And the idea is that as your kid develops, like ends up going through developmental leaps and changes, you need to up their the expectations for them to help them get to the next step. So like the idea is like taking car seats, for example, or driving in the car. You take from where they're at the bottom of the staircase to where you want them to be at the top. At the bottom is right now they're getting strapped into their car seat by you.
Right.
At the top, eventually, you want them to be able to get into the car, buckle their own seatbelt, and be ready to go without any help from you, right? But you can't go from there to there in one day. You have to take these incremental steps. And so the upskilling is something you do at key moments to help your kid get to that next level. And one really helpful thing that Gia taught me was that if you hear yourself saying things like, well, they used to like getting in the car, but they don't anymore, or all of a sudden she doesn't like the car seat, that is a clue that it's time for upskilling. And what you do is you set the expectations just above where they're currently at.
Okay.
So that they can rise to the occasion.
So they can meet it. Okay.
Because as a parent, you want to like support your kid and you're always doing all this stuff, right? But the car seat is a perfect example, and I have it in the book where I
and your diagrams are great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I did them all myself on my iPad and Procreate. So when Augie was a toddler in Gia's class, I told her, I was like, after class, I was like, oh, I don't want to leave class because Augie is being a real pain in the car. He never wants to get in the car seat. All of a sudden, he doesn't like the straps. And she was like, all of a sudden you say. And she's like, just try to do an upskill. Try to let him get into his own car seat. And I was just like, no fucking way.
Right.
Because he is going to just wander the entire car. I'm going to be standing on the side of the road while he like goes into the trunk. Like, no.
Right.
And she was like, trust me, he's ready for an upskill. I was like, fine, Gia, you know everything. I'll do this. So I take him to the car and I'm like, hey, Augie, do you want to get into your own car seat? And I'm just like,
cringing.
Full body tense, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And like, climbs into his own car seat. I was just like, what the hell? Like, where has this child been? You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's because he needed the expectations raised for him, right? So we do that with potty training too. So that's what we do during the rehearsal period is we upskill all those little steps in the potty training. We ask them to practice pulling their pants down and up, and we practice sitting on the potty, which is like a whole thing. You have to like turn your back and like balance and
that's
sit
something
down.
She said at the thing. She goes, I mean, this is like, we just do it by rote, but for them it's like you have to teach them the mechanics of something very specific.
Exactly. So we do all those upskills during the rehearsal period.
Love.
Yeah.
Great. And that's what I think. I kept thinking, oh, the 3-day, that's the method I think I used. Because, after like a year, you forget everything.
Oh, yeah.
My girlfriend's
100%.
like, what bottles did you? I was like, I have no idea. Why would I remember that? And with Everly, I was like, oh, yeah, we did weeks of that, like weeks of everything you were saying. I was like, yeah, and I was like, oh, if parents don't know that and they read the 3-day book and they just start, how terrifying.
One of the books, the book I read, we don't name it.
We don't name it.
Most people can figure it out.
Yep.
And they can probably figure it out because I named it by name at the time in the podcast. Yeah. It explicitly tells you don't even bring out the little potty because it'll confuse them.
Yep. I know exactly what book you're talking about.
Yeah. And even at the time, I remember being like confused. They're smart. Like these toddlers are so much smarter than we give them credit for. And I was just like, that doesn't seem right. And yeah, we don't do that. We let the kids know what's coming. We
Right.
treat them with respect. We treat them like human beings who are during this
Yeah,
process,
who are
which is
learning something new for the first time.
exactly. We're not
Yeah,
doing it to them. We're doing it with
with them.
them.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Let's see. Oh, the something else Gia said in her thing was one of the parents had a question and she's like, "Oh, we're regressing. Like he did really good, but then I had a work conference." And obviously consistency is so important,
Yeah.
just like with your podcast, not
Yes.
missing a week. Like consistency is so
Yeah.
important. And she said, make sure and I don't know that my question is, what age does this start?
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if you covered it in the book, but when it's time to change their diapers, you take them into the bathroom to
Mhm.
do it so
Yeah.
that they know this is where bathroom stuff happens.
Yeah.
And that's such an early indicator. I love that she said that. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to do it here. We're going to change
Mhm.
your diaper in here from now on.
Yeah, we recommend that during the rehearsal period, so
Right.
2 to 4 weeks beforehand.
Okay.
You can do it beforehand, but the problem with doing it for much longer, when we originally started developing the whole good to go method, we did have it for longer. We had like a 6-week rehearsal period. And what
Right.
we discovered from talking to the parents that we were working with was that after a certain amount of time, the kids get used to it and it loses that kind of like novelty and
Ah,
the
the
fun and the
newness.
like wanting to like learn, right? Like kids
Right.
love to learn,
Yeah.
right?
Sponges. Yeah.
But once something becomes super routine, then it becomes less interesting for them.
Got it.
And so that's why we recommend it not any more than 4 weeks, so that you don't lose that spark of
Got it.
interest.
Okay.
But if you've been changing your kid's diaper in the bathroom for whatever reason their whole life, it's not going to ruin anything. The other thing about the book and our method is like, there's no one thing that's gonna ruin the process. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, everyone has to adapt the approach to their own lives, and we recognize that, and we're not gonna tell you that, like, "Oh, if you can't do this one thing, then all's lost,
Yeah.
and it's your fault that your kid's gonna be in
Right.
diapers forever."
Right.
Like,
So that's not
no.
how it works.
Yeah, that's not how life works.
Okay. So here's rapid fire questions.
Great.
Somebody asked, automatically, should dad teach the boys and moms teach the girls?
Well, no. I
Yeah.
have 2 boys,
I was
so
like, there's no way.
um look, there is something to be said about, um observing someone with similar anatomy to you, to how to, wiping is different. Choosing whether you stand or sit can be different, but and there's nothing wrong with a dad taking the lead on boys potty training. I, I mean, I'm a person who doesn't really ascribe to like these strict gender roles usually, so
Right.
it's kind of foreign for me to do that.
Right.
But I mean, if as a family your family values are such that you don't feel comfortable with like a differently gendered child observing you in the bathroom, and you do have a similar gender in your household that you can use for modeling,
Then use that.
go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna, I know that everyone has different cultural norms around that, but no, and it's not like, if a lot of times my husband was at work and it was just me. It's not
Right.
like I'm gonna be like, well, we can't potty train till daddy gets home.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not
I'm
gonna
like,
work
it
out.
comes down to like more consistency
Exactly.
than
Yeah.
who's doing that.
Yeah. And there's lots of, same-sex parents who are gonna be, don't have that option. So,
How do you feel about bribing?
okay. We have a whole section about rewards, external reward systems, and then we also have like negative rewards that that some like take. So there's like additive reward systems where
Mhm.
you give them something every time there's
Right.
they pee in the body, and then there's like subtractive rewards, which is like they lose access to something. We prefer additive rewards
Of
to
course, right.
subtractive, but there are some kids who, no matter what you do, no matter how much you go through, like you're perfect with the rehearsal period, you're modeling, you're narrating, you're doing all the stuff, they don't care. They just do not care about using the potty. And with kids like that,
You have to take away.
reward systems, well, I mean, we say start with the additive, but
Right.
I mean, there are just going to be some kids who the only thing they respond to is like external reward systems.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We say don't start with it, because most kids, it's not like most kids need it. There's a
Right.
subset of kids who do. So try the other methods first.
Yeah.
And then if you think you need it, the whole trick is to go in with a tapering plan in place. So you don't just say like, you're going to get an M&M every time you go in the potty, and then like they think it's going to happen forever. You can have a chart, or you can have some visual to show them how long this is going to last. Like, So for the first 2 weeks or the
Right.
first week, but you want them to know from the beginning that this is not a forever thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My sister, I remember she's 7 years younger than me. And I was like, I walked the line. I did what I was told. She was a little bit more fighty and a little bit more
Mhm.
combative. So I remember when she was potty training, they were like, we're going to give you a coloring book every time. And I go, a coloring book every time? And I remember being so jealous of that. And I was like,
Yeah.
I just learned to pee. Okay. She gets a coloring book. Still mad about it.
Yeah, that's a big reward.
Yeah, just like 40 years later, still angry about it. What is the biggest misconception about why potty training's not working? Or like, what do you think most parents, or not even misconception, what do you think most parents are saying, like, why it's not working?
I think probably this idea that it's a binary, right? That it's
Right.
that potty training is not working because after 3 days, my kid isn't independently choosing to go to the potty without any reminders,
Right.
without any of that. We come from a lot of experience. Gia has 20 years of
Mhm.
teaching toddler classes. I have 2 kids. She has 2 kids. Like, I pull from my audience in the podcast, like, we've gathered tons of evidence from our listeners and from her students. And it's just this idea that potty training, like, that you just get it done in 3 days, because we all have the friend. Like, I have a friend who, before I wrote the book, she
Oh,
she
they
knows better
say
than to tell me now, but, at the time, she was like, "Oh, yeah, we just took away diapers and, 3 days later, she's totally potty trained."
yeah.
And I remember being like, "Oh." But the thing that happens when we get those stories is that we all retreat into silence and
Mhm.
secrecy and shame because we think we did something wrong
Right.
and it's not working for us. Potty training is usually one of the first times you really engage in a direct teaching
With your
relationship
child.
with your child.
Mhm.
And this is the first time you start to get to know what their learning style is like, how they react to, like, some kids don't like being told what to do, right? And some
Right.
kids love it. Some kids, I was the kid who, like, straight A student,
Yeah.
loved
Love direction. Tell me
yeah.
what to do. Yeah.
Yeah. My son
Same.
Augie, if you tell him to do something, he doesn't want to do it,
Right.
so you have to find other ways to do it. But I was ashamed after my first failed potty training experience with him because I didn't want to admit to people that, like, we had failed, right? Um, and I think that the more we normalize talking about how it's a process and that it's not just something you do in a long weekend, that we can maybe get away from this idea that it's failing.
Right.
I'd say that, and then also poop posture.
Poop posture. Oh, yeah. Tell me, that's on the list too. Tell me
Is
about
it?
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pooping posture is my favorite thing to talk about because it makes everyone cringe. So, we have discovered that, there's this thing that people know about in the, child development world, that there's just kids who will pee fine. They're potty trained for pee, no problem, but they will not poop in the potty
Mhm.
for years.
Mhm.
And it's been really hard not to crack. Like, people have had a hard
I've
time
heard that a
figuring it
lot.
out.
Yeah.
And Gia had this, like, insight when she was working with a family while we were writing the book. She's like, "Oh my God, I think I figured it out. And it's pooping posture." Because she was talking to this family, "Oh, he pees in the potty fine, but he won't poop." And it's apparently it happened right when she was, like, on a Zoom call with the family. She's like, "Oh, there they are, they're pooping." And she's like, "Wait, how is he pooping?" And he was standing. And she was like, "Wait a second," light bulb moment.
Oh.
So we've realized that so many of these kids who have trouble with pooping in the potty are either standers, leaners, or we've discovered a few new ones, all fours, a lot of kids, or on their stomachs. So they've learned how to poop in these unusual postures, right?
Right.
And basically all their life, or as long as they've been walking, they've trained their pelvic floor muscles to poop in those positions. If you just think about standing, it's the easiest one to think about.
Right.
As an
That's how
adult,
Everly always did it when she was little.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So as an adult, if you have to poop, and I tell you, you have to stand up and poop,
I'd freak out.
you'd freak out.
Yeah.
You'd be anxious. You wouldn't even know how to do it. Like, could you even engage
I don't even
the
think I
muscles?
could do
Yeah,
it.
you
No.
couldn't do it. So when we're taking a kid who's been standing to poop their whole life and all of a sudden ask them to sit to poop on a potty, it's just like asking an adult to stand to poop.
Right.
It's just as impossible for them. It's just as stressful for them.
Right.
And they just physically cannot do it. And so what we have developed in the book is how to fix their poop posture before they're out of
That's
diapers.
amazing.
So that I think it's like it's the big picture. It's a process thing, and also like make sure your kid's not standing to poop.
Yeah. That's so funny because we have videos. I mean, obviously we would never share these, but we have videos between her dad and I where it's like we'll be having a really fun conversation with her and you can just see her face
Yeah.
change, but she's either standing
Yeah.
or she's like sitting, leaning forward,
Mhm.
but like not in what you would be on the
Yeah,
potty.
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
like, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we already did that. I realize, hold on just a second. I realize no, I think that's it. That's all that we did. We hit all
Oh,
the questions.
okay.
That's crazy because you just did that last one.
I
That was
preempted your
amazing.
question.
What do you suggest? Why would you suggest your book over like 3-Day Method as like the go-to? I mean, I know we've kind of covered it, but it's also now I like look back and I look at the length of yours and I read it. By the way, easy read, super easy read.
Oh, thank you.
But when I look at the 3-day one, which is also long, like is a longer book, I'm like, I can't believe they wasted that many pages on stuff like not covering the beginning part of it, like the stuff that would lead up to it. And I think you guys like cover the gamut.
Thank you.
On all of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that I love our book. I think there's so much in it that's really useful for parents. Even if you're not potty training, I know that sounds crazy to buy a potty training book if you're not potty training. But the first chapter is called The Big Picture, Essential Parenting Tools. And we take like a bunch of Gia's tried and true
the way she understands a kid's brain and its development and stuff. So she shared a little bit with us that in the Beverly Hills thing and and she's so lovely. Her energy is also so great and patient. But when you realize like how kids think and how they develop and like how they respond to even like their emotions.
Yeah.
And for doing something as big as like a transition, like is potty training, how important that is to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So we packed the beginning of the book with these parenting tools because you're going to need them for potty training, but you can use them for everything else. Like we don't even address them as far as potty training goes in the first chapter. We give other examples so you can get a grasp of them so that you can use them. And then we like go back to them in the potty training chapter. So you know how to use something like the value-centered parenting tool or the negotiation sequence. She has the negotiation sequence is so good. I use it all the time with my kids. It's all about how to both get what you want and stick to your boundaries without like shooting yourself in the foot too early. It's the best. So I would say the essential parenting tools are amazing. Obviously, we talked about the rehearsal period. But the other thing that I love about our book is we have two things. One is we have this like minute by minute sample schedule that we offer for parents if you like literally don't know what to do with yourself on the first day of potty training.
So detailed, yeah.
And then we also have this chapter called What's Your Challenge, where we break down what a bunch of really, I think it's 11 maybe, but it's a bunch of very common issues that come up.
Right.
And the way we address it is not like, oh, if you did it wrong, these might come up. It's actually you are going to face you are like 99% sure to face one of
something.
These.
Right.
So here is how you address it when you get to it. So whether it's fear, because there's a lot of kids who are scared of using the potty, whether
she mentioned like she goes, if you think about this, when the water splashes up, if you've never felt that before, for some kids, it could be very scary.
You know what's interesting? I'm very bad with TikTok, but I did do one like semi-viral video. It's about poop posture.
Yeah.
And it's been getting a lot of comments. And an adult just posted, they said, actually, this wasn't my problem. My problem was I was super scared of the potty and the splashing really bothered me. And I was like, thank you so much for mentioning this. We put this in our book because kids, we know that kids have this, but people don't realize, and hearing from an adult that you still remember how that felt
isn't that crazy?
Is really, really cool. So yeah, there's like fear, there's indifference. There's a really common one is like not wanting to stop play, like being too engrossed in their play.
Oh, we have family like little kids in our family that I'm not going to out them, but that's the thing where it's like, and then they just run over to a corner.
Oh no.
Do it and then come back to play. And we're like, oh no. Okay.
Yeah. So we have all these different issues that you can run into and like very detailed like how to approach it, because if the issue is fear, you're going to have a different approach to how to like help them than if the difference is or the challenge is like indifference or the challenge is being too engrossed in play, right? So we're not again, it's like not this one size fits all. So like we wrote the book with the hopes that can do as much as possible to address as many different families' issues as possible. Obviously, there's a reason we made it 220 pages long. And then every time, so Gia and I just recorded the audiobook, which will hopefully be out by the time this episode's out. And as we were reading it, she kept pausing and be like, "We need to fix this for the second edition." And I was like, "Okay, so we have like notes for a second edition." I'm like, "How can we even make it longer?" But there's just so much. There's so much,
There's
and
so
we
much
really
stuff
want to
about it.
support everyone.
Yeah,
it's nice to hear that it was a quick read. I also sprinkled
if
in.
it was easy, like I felt it, and then the graphics and stuff like that, it was easy. Where can people buy it?
We are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, anywhere online you buy your books. We are available in some print shops. You just have to like in-store locations, you just have to like ask. And it's definitely at Romans. We know that.
Oh, great.
But yeah, all the online outlets, and we also have the audiobook that's coming out on Audible, Amazon, and Apple. Hopefully any day now. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Do you want people to follow you?
We love that. So you can find us at goodtogoparenting.com. That's where you can find all of the info about the book. There's links to buy it. On the About page, there's links to Gia and I. For the podcast, Big Fat Positive.
Yeah, you got to pinch it.
Our website is bigfatpositivepodcast.com. We are on all the podcast platforms as Big Fat Positive, a pregnancy and parenting journey. We're at BFP Podcast on all the socials. So, and then you can follow me at Laura Berk on all the socials.
BRIEK.
BIREK. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing
Thanks
this.
for having me. This was super
Is there
fun.
anything else we didn't cover?
Oh,
you feel like? I mean, a lot of it's in the book.
A lot of it's in the book. Yeah. I mean, we just, we'd love for you. Oh, episode 387 of Big Fat Positive has Gia on it talking about potty training.
Amazing.
So we can, that's a good place to start if you're interested in potty training and also want to check out Big Fat Positive.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I love being here.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for us today. We'll see you again next week. Again, you can follow me at NicoleComedy.com for all my show dates. And then you can follow this podcast at The Funny Thing Is on all socials or at Nicole Birch Comedy for all the other stuff. So we'll see you guys then.